Hey guys, welcome to a new series we're starting on this channel. The goal of this series is to help you guys learn SQL. And in this series, we're going to start with some beginner level concepts, and the videos will get more advanced as the series progresses. By the end of this series, the goal is for you guys to have a solid understanding of how to write complex queries in SQL and how to approach data-related problems using SQL. Before we actually get into writing some SQL code, I'd imagine many of you are asking, what would actually be the benefit of learning SQL? Really quick, I'm going to go over a few reasons why I think learning SQL could be beneficial for you and your career. One of the most common reasons for learning SQL is that it's widely used in an industry that you either work in or intend to work in the future. Typically, when we think of SQL, we associate it with industries like data science and software engineering, but SQL is also widely used in other industries like finance, marketing, and healthcare. Therefore, no matter what industry you work in, there's a good chance that learning SQL will help you get the job that you're looking for or advance to a more senior role in the job that you already have. Another reason so many people learn SQL is that it does not take a very long time to understand the basics of SQL. In this series, we will go over more complex techniques, but a lot of this series is going to be focused on getting you up and running with SQL, and that process doesn't actually take a very long time, particularly if you have experience with other programming languages. But even if you're coming to this video with no programming experience whatsoever, learning the very basics of SQL does not take a lot of time and can pay massive dividends in the future. The last reason I'll give as to why SQL is so popular is it's oftentimes the best tool available for analyzing, aggregating, and manipulating extremely large quantities of data. While there are other tools that are very popular, such as Python or Microsoft Excel, when you're working with data sets that have tens of million or hundreds of millions of rows, which can be commonplace in certain industries, oftentimes SQL is the number one tool that will help you manipulate that data, aggregate that data, and analyze that data without some of the trade-offs that come with doing that in other tools, such as, for example, Microsoft Excel. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into actually writing some SQL code. All right, now to actually get into writing some SQL, I'm going to open up MySQL Workbench. So what we need to do is we need to create a connection. To do that, we're going to click this plus button here, and we're going to name the connection. You can name it whatever. So I'm going to name it SQL Tutorial. Now we're going to click OK. Now we need to open the connection. We're going to open the connection by just clicking on it. We're going to put in our password that we used to set up MySQL Workbench when we installed it. Continue. And here we go. Now to check to see if it works, we're going to do show databases. And you can see what we get down here. This shows that it in fact is working if that statement works. Now the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create a schema. So a schema is a setup where you can have multiple databases inside of it. You'll often see these graphs that show how different databases within the schema relate to each other. And we're going to create a schema by writing create schema, and we're going to name it myDB. We're going to run that. I'm on Mac, so I'm running it by pressing Command and Enter simultaneously. You can also click this lightning bolt here. Now to see if it worked, we're going to refresh here. We see before we just had sys, now we have myDB as well. So I'm going to comment that out by pressing the dashes. So now this won't do anything. And now that we have our schema, we have to create a table. We see when we go to our schema tables, there's nothing here. There are no tables. We're going to create a table, and we're going to input some sample sales data. So we're going to create a table for sales data. Now, when we look at this table, we can understand a lot of what's going on, even if we're not familiar at all with SQL. So we see create table. We're creating a table. myDB, which is our schema name, .sales. So sales is the name of our table. myDB is the name of our schema. Now let's look at what's in our sales table. Salesperson ID, int, so integer, not null, which essentially means you have to have the ID. Salesperson, VARCHAR, which just means a number of strings or letters or characters. Not null, can't be missing. Department, same thing. Department ID, similar to salesperson ID. year, and then sales. So this is all pretty straightforward. Let's run this to create our table. Let's check to see if it worked. Now we have our sales table. We can see we have the columns, but right now we created our table. There's nothing in our table. To check that, we can run select star from myDB.Sales. When we run this, nothing shows up. Right? We can see we don't see anything here. There's no data because we just created our table. Now, let's go and input some data into the table. So I'm going to insert 20 rows into this table. We have 10 different salespeople. Each salesperson has 2 rows. Let's run this. Well, first let's look at it. So insert into myDB.Sales. Okay, very simple. We're putting the data or inserting it into myDB.Sales. Now we have all of our column names. So we have salesperson ID, salesperson, department, department ID, year, and sales. These each correspond to the items within the parentheses. So let's run this. Now let's check to see if it worked. Before, when we ran this, nothing showed up. Now let's see if anything shows up. Okay, perfect. So now we actually have our sales data. All right, so far we've covered creating our schema, creating our table, inserting rows in the table, and selecting information from the table. Now in subsequent parts, we're going to get more involved into how to extract data in more complicated ways and manipulate the data, but I do think this is a good place to leave off for part 1. All right, so that's going to do it for the first episode of the SQL series. I hope you enjoyed the video. If there's anything that you found unclear, please do not hesitate to leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to get to your comment in a timely manner. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps get the videos out, and it lets me know that you guys are interested in this series and that this is providing value to you in some form or fashion. With all that said, I hope to see you guys for episode 2. Thank you.